The title of my talk today is God. Is there any God? Philosophical discussion about the existence and non-existence of God have their roots deep in history. The historical evidences take us to the 5th century before Christ, before Socrates, to those who described the work of nature without God for the first time. The name of the prominent person of this era and movement was Thales. The philosophy of disbelief in God became very vocal after the communist and Darwinian movement. Later, this even took a strong political stand against the spread of God and creation philosophies. Those who do not believe in the existence of God say a God does not exist if he cannot be seen or touched. We are not sure whether God exists or not, since science has not proven the existence of God yet. They therefore guess that the world came into being randomly and by accident and cannot have a creator. But those who believe in the existence of God say, since everything that exists has an inventor and creator, the existence of the world is also an indication to its own creator. Let me give you a couple of evidences against the random philosophy of existence. The first evidence is the make-up of everything. Everything in the world has an orderly and well-formed structure which cannot be by accident. Anytime we see a regular order in something, it means that there has been intellect, knowledge, and management behind the establishment of that regularity. If this is the case, then the random philosophy of existence not only does not make sense, but will also be against the rationality of science. A second evidence is the way that members of the body function. Every member of a human or animal body is positioned in its place with an extraordinary intelligence for a particular task and purpose. This intelligence does not go hand in hand with the theory of random philosophy. For example, a giraffe has a 13-kilogram heart with 2 times more pressure than the pressure of an elephant's heart in order to run the blood through a long neck to its head. It has a very specific vessel near the brain which functions like a sponge and absorbs blood gently when the head is down in order to reduce the pressure of the blood. Otherwise, the head would explode. If the pressure is too high, the sponge signals the giraffe to lift its head before damage happens. Is it possible to describe this amazing intelligent design via random philosophy? Absolutely not. A third evidence is the moral practices among humanity. Moral practices in daily life cannot be the result of random incidents. For example, without an experience and a standard, we will not be able to say this one is good, but that one is bad, or this wrong, but the other right. But if we rely on our experiences or standards like this, then the random philosophy will be meaningless. Why? Because we have experienced them in the past, and the knowledge of the past experience is now our life standard. With this information, we can march ahead towards the future with open eyes in order to avoid negative and harmful things. So we can see that standards are the result of our evaluating ability and intelligent decision making rather than accidentally in order to lead us toward our desired goals. Therefore, random philosophy is just a theory and does not match the practical aspects of our life. The moral order of every family in the world is also against random philosophy. Throughout the history, parents, even those who do not believe in God, avoided marrying their children. Relying on such a pre-made order is sharply against random philosophy. In addition, no one can say in a random incident that this person is my chosen spouse or that is the child we decided to have, because selecting or arranging do not match a random life or philosophy. So you see that everything in the world, including science, is not compatible with the random philosophy of existence, but points to the existence of a creator who designed and created the universe. The world is created by God. We just need to look at the things around us closely in order to understand this. Who is this God? Well, God is defined differently by many religions, but which one is telling the truth? It is not my plan today to discuss various religions' approaches to God, but I am aiming to compare the Muslims' and Christians' views of God. Do Islam and Christianity view God differently? Let us see as much as we can. Can God have a relationship with people in either of these beliefs? The Bible says God is the revealing God by nature. He builds personal relationships as he had personal relationships with many people in the Bible. The Quran says Allah is non-revealing by nature and cannot have a personal relationship with people. This is similar to Greek philosophy. In Greek philosophy, God does not have personality and cannot reveal himself. The reason Muslim scholars borrowed from Greek philosophy is because Allah's characteristic could only match Greek philosophy. We read in the Bible that God sees, hears, speaks directly to people, and shows himself to anyone he chooses. But the Quran says in Sura Al-An'am, verse 103, that Allah sees but is invisible. And Surah Shura, verse 51 says that Allah speaks to no one but behind the veil. So the Quran says that God hides and never reveals himself. but the Bible says that God reveals himself. Now, before entering a logical discussion, let me ask you a simple question. Would you love to see your Creator face to face? I have been amazed so many times by the responses of many people from various religious backgrounds who said that they would love to see their Creator. Contrary to Islamic view, some great Middle Eastern Muslim philosophers, theologians, and poets also desire to see God face to face. In brief, I want to tell you that God never desires to hide himself from you if you desire to see him. Let me prove why God shouldn't hide himself. Because God shows his love personally. God is the God of love. He does not hide his love. You never call a person lovely unless that person reveals his or her love in relationships. God is the same. He reveals his love in relationships with you and with his creatures. As a result, God must build a relationship with us first and then reveal his love to us. God planned for creation in the beginning and included his love in that plan too. In creation, he revealed himself to Adam and Eve, and they were able to see God and his love personally. If your God does not reveal himself, he therefore is not a relational God and does not have any interest in your life. The second reason that God does not hide himself is that we will be able to know God better if he reveals himself. Each individual who is personally created by God needs to know his Creator personally. Isn't it better to know God personally without mediation? Knowing a person without a mediator creates intimacy. Suppose you want to build a family. Won't it be more beneficial for you to know your future life partner personally and unite with her or him? With God is the same. If you want to unite with God, you need to know him personally. God's words won't relate to us directly if we do not know him personally. On the other hand, no one can make God better known to us than God himself. Why then shouldn't God make himself known to us personally? God doesn't hide himself. If your religion says that God does not reveal himself and does not make himself known, that religion cannot be godly. Let me ask you a different question. If a person does not know God personally, can he be a messenger of God? No. A true messenger of God is sent by God himself. If a person has not seen God, hasn't heard his voice, and does not know him, with what logic can he say that he is from God? There is no logic in that. A genuine messenger should have a direct relationship with the person of God, with his voice and words. Otherwise, he will not be genuine in his claim that he is from God. And if there is no basis for reason in a religion, then deception, force, or sword will be some means of making a message acceptable. Therefore, if your religion teaches that your prophet hasn't met God personally, then you need to search for another belief which promotes personal relationships between God and his messengers. Also, the God of love desires to lead people personally. Haven't you heard people say, "May God lead you"? This is because people desire to be led by God personally. I'm sure that you all agree with me that God is the best when it comes to justice, righteousness, holiness, and kindness. Who else then can lead people better than God? No one. God knows if he himself leads you personally, then Satan will not be able to get close to you. But if a prophet leads you, you will not be immune from Satan's influence. For this reason, God does not hide himself, but loves to reveal himself to lead you personally. Therefore, if you allow God to lead you personally, it will be safer for you instead of being led by a middleman or a prophet. As a result, if your religion does not give you a chance to have a personal relationship with God and obligates you to blindly follow your prophet, that religion cannot be from God. The fourth reason that God does not hide himself is because he desires to establish justice on earth personally. If God is the ultimate authority in justice, and Satan is the ultimate authority in injustice, who else other than God can triumph over Satan and establish the justice in your life on earth? No one except God. If this is the case, then God needs to reveal himself and establish justice on earth, because a prophet cannot overcome Satan personally. Thus, if your religion teaches that God does not reveal himself personally to fight Satan for us, it is misleading you and is unaware of the way God's justice is established. The fifth reason that God does not hide himself is because he desires to save humankind personally. Satan is the highest authority in injustice and has chained humans. If this is the case, who can then save this chained humanity from Satan and sin? Can a chained person save himself from Satan? No. First of all, he is in a spiritual prison, and a prisoner cannot save himself. Secondly, Satan is the head of this spiritual prison, mightier than any human, hates humanity, and also does not believe in the freedom or salvation of any human. No man can save himself. Every human being needs God to come and save him or her personally. For God to come means that he does not hide himself. Your religion is misleading you if it says that you can save yourself from Satan with your good deeds. If you are not spiritually saved and free, this ungodly situation keeps us from being able to perform any heavenly deed that can satisfy God. God is the source of love and justice. You will not be able to think, speak, and act for God truly unless you reside in God's love and justice first. In other words, your deeds cannot be relevant to God unless you are united with God and your relationship with sin and Satan is cancelled. God's desire is for humanity to be free from Satan first. Freedom from Satan is the beginning of good deeds for God. In other words, God's first mission is to reveal himself to free you. The deeds that really satisfy God starts after you are saved and free. So the God of love does not hide himself and does not delay salvation for the afterlife. Is it fair to leave the salvation of a person for tomorrow while he is crying for it today? If Satan has separated humanity from God and his kingdom on earth and made them sinners, their salvation also must happen on earth. Don't those who are forced to live apart from one another in this world desire to unite as soon as possible with each other? Won't it be more painful if their unity is delayed? Both God's and our hearts are the same. God does not want to delay the visit. He reveals himself to us here on earth. Our hearts also will not get rest if our salvation is delayed. Therefore, your religion cannot be in harmony with the heart of God if it hides God and leaves salvation for the afterlife. You see how the Bible reveals God, but the Quran hides him. It is not pleasant when someone hides the most beautiful person from you. Jesus taught that God never hides himself from you. He loves you. Also, Jesus is the architect of these realistic and logical words which I shared with you. If these words seem right to your heart, you also need to follow Jesus.